Hello Internet, AdoptedMike here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a build with the NZXT Source 210 ATX case, as you can see there on the left, and I wanted to give some of my thoughts and experience as I build the build inside of that case. So anyway, the parts I'm going to use for the motherboard is a Gigabyte 990 FXA-UD3, and then for processor I'm going to use the FX80 320, you can see there, along with above it the Corsair H80 to cool that processor. For RAM, I'm going to be using the Adata kit there. It's an 8GB kit at 1600 megahertz, and that will round out that part. As far as power supply, back there tucked behind, I've got the Rosewill Hive 650. This is 650 watt, as that name would imply, and it's a little bit overkill for the build, but the customer wanted to be able to do some different things as far as graphics cards later down the road, so I went a little heavy on the power supply in case he decides he wants to do SLI or Crossfire down the road. Speaking of SLI or Crossfire, we can go into the GPU. Back to the right there, we're starting off with a GTX 660 that was provided by the customer for this build. To save a little bit of money during it, we're going to reuse the GPU from his older system, and not that there's anything wrong with the 660, but definitely he wants to upgrade in the future, which is why the power supply is kind of overkill. And for storage, I'm going to do a 120 gigabyte Kingston SSD for the operating system and some key applications, and then we're going to pair that with a Hitachi 2 terabyte 7200 RPM hard drive. And also we're going to be installing Windows 7 Home Premium, as you can see there on the left, and then kind of tucked in just in front of the power supply I've got some white LED fans to help light up the case and make that case, you know, shine a little bit. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so starting off there, I've got the case all stripped down. I put the two fans in the front, being that there wasn't any fans included. I removed the one in the back there for the H80, and I did forget to mention that we are installing a DVD writer as well. So I've got that in. I've installed the SSD and hard drive down there as well too. The SSD, I did need to add a bracket to convert 2.5 inch to a 3.5 inch, being this case doesn't really support a 2.5 inch, and I didn't want to, if it was for my build, I probably would have just like double-sided taped it to the floor or velcroed it, but I figured for the customer I would just do it the right way, so I've installed the SSD on a bracket. And then moving down here, I've got the motherboard prepped and ready to go. I installed the RAM, put the processor in, and I was going to get ready to change out like the backplate and the retention hardware when I noticed that the H80 here actually doesn't need any different retention hardware. So currently we are ready to just start putting everything in the case. I guess I should mention too, I've got the backplate installed, and I kind of like the internals of the case so far. You know, we've got all black screws with all the white interior, so I think that's pretty cool. And then obviously we have the PCI brackets are ventilated and black as well too. So kind of a neat one to start with. One thing I may do differently is I'm gonna come over here real quick, and there's not really any kind of padding or anything for the power supply to sit on, so I've got a piece of 3M tape, I guess, well, except it's like a foam tape, so I may use this down here. This case actually doesn't have a filter drawing in, so I'm going to turn the power supply with the fan facing up, and then I might put this, you know, around here just to give the power supply some cushion for vibration so it doesn't transfer to the metal. Some of the other cases you do see some little rubberized feet. Unfortunately, this is kind of a cheaper case, so it didn't have that, and I'll be going with that instead, I think. And anyway, yeah, that's so far is where we're at, and I'm gonna go ahead and continue on. Okay, so I've got everything installed, put together, wired up, and it's ready to rock and roll. I just figured we'd kind of buzz around a little bit and take a look, and I'd give some of my thoughts. I like the case. For $30, it really was pretty easy to build in. There was, as we'll see later, plenty of room on the back side for some cable management. It doesn't have the best way to hide some of it like in here, unfortunately, especially without the use of extension cables. Maybe some extension cables for the power supply would have helped some of the SATA looping that I have going, particularly up there. SATA power, that is. But we'll take a look anyway. You know, for 30 bucks, like I said, we get a bottom mounted power supply, which is great. Sometimes for that price you do have to mount it on the top, so this helps improve, you know, obviously center of gravity, and gives the power supply some cooler air. Didn't have the bottom dust filter, like I said, so we do have it mounted with the fan pointing up, and I did use that foam padding that I was showing earlier as well too, to kind of dampen any of the sound that this may make. Let's see, we got a, you know, optional fan there, but I chose not to install it, obviously. I don't know if the customer is going to put this on carpet, and if they do, that's not going to work anyway. So we'll kind of spin it around. We'll take a look at the front here. The front is nice. I like the white with black. Works out pretty good. One thing, I wish it did have USB 3.0. The motherboard does have it, but this is only 2.0 up front. But, you know, what do you do? Like I said, I guess it still was $30. So take a look at the back, and as far as cable management goes, it wasn't my best, but it's also not bad at all. There's a pretty good amount of room back here. I was able to get everything tucked in behind, and there's even some room under the lip here, which helps. One thing I did have to do is I needed an extension cable, because mounting the power supply the other way, it made the cable a little shorter, so I needed that extension cable there, and it does look ugly on the back side, but as you can see here, you can't see it because of the radiators in the way. So I figured that worked out pretty good. It saved some money by not having to go to a sleeved cable or an all black cable, so I was able to save a couple bucks on the build in general. And we'll go back to here. I did need to use a 3-pin extension and a 3-pin Y connector for the two front fans there, so we did have to add that. That's one other thing to think about. And obviously the reason for that is just because I wanted to, if you can even barely see it in there, the 3-pin comes up there, as well as the HD audio and USB, so I've got them kind of routing behind, so there is enough room to route those behind the power supply, but I didn't want to have a bunch of fan headers running all over the place, so I chose to pull it off of that one where I can hide it the best, and then split it out to the two front fans. Obviously the fan here is controlled by the H80, so that worked out good. So it really kind of helped keep the build clean without too many wires having to actually come up front, other than the fact, I suppose, and I'll probably go back and do this off camera, but I think I may run that actually behind the motherboard, and what that I mean by that is the front panel connectors and LED lights. So I'll probably off camera spin that around so it tucks up under the motherboard and then goes out that way up to the front. So that would be one other thing I could do to clean it up. Other than that, there really isn't a whole lot that can be done without the use of like rubber grommets, you know, in here to kind of clean that up a little bit, or SATA power extensions like I said before. So this isn't a bad case. I'm really happy with it actually for $30, and I keep bringing that up because $30 actually is a inexpensive case when you start talking about ATX cases. So anyway, that wraps up the build. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below, please. If you liked the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up there. If you disliked it, give me the thumbs down. Let me know what you think. And as always, thank you for watching.